Let's start with a quick test. I'm going to flash 15 words on the screen, and I want you to memorize as many as you can. Ready? Go. Bed. Rest. Awake. Tired. Dream. Wake. Snooze. Blanket. Doze. Slumber. Snore. Nap. Peace. Yawn. Drowsy. Hold those words in your working memory. We'll return to them in a moment, but first consider the high-stakes environment of a high-speed chase. In 1995, Boston police officer Kenny Conley chased a murder suspect into a cul-de-sac. He scaled a fence, pursued the suspect for a mile on foot, and made the arrest. But at the base of that fence, a group of officers was brutally beating an undercover cop they'd mistaken for a suspect. Conley ran right past the assault. Later, under oath, he swore he didn't see it. The jury didn't believe him. He was convicted of perjury and obstruction of justice. That conviction relied on the video camera myth, the belief that our eyes act as lenses, faithfully recording every detail in our field of vision. We assume that if Conley's eyes were open and pointed at a beating, his brain must have recorded it. Think back to that word list from the start of the video. Search your memory for one specific detail. Do you remember seeing the word sleep? Roughly 40% of people will recall seeing the word sleep. You might even be able to picture it on the screen. But sleep was never on the list. This is an active fabrication. Your brain recognized a pattern and filled the gap with a lie, proving that we all live with dangerous, everyday illusions. This blind spot is a result of inattentional blindness. Our attention is a zero-sum game. When the spotlight tightens on one task, the brain deletes unexpected background information from our conscious awareness. This was famously proven by asking people to count basketball passes. Because viewers focused so heavily on the players, half of them failed to see a person in a gorilla suit walk into the game, beat its chest, and walk away. In 2001, this biological filter moved from the psychology lab to the bridge of a nuclear submarine. Commander Scott Waddell was at the periscope of the USS Greenville. Waddell ordered an emergency main ballast tank blow, a maneuver that forces the sub to surface as fast as possible. He looked through the periscope to ensure the area was clear. He saw nothing, yet he was looking directly toward a 200-foot vessel. Because he wasn't expecting a ship, his brain didn't register it. The Greenville surfaced directly into the Japanese fishing boat Ehime Maru, slicing through its hull and sending it to the seafloor. This mechanism explains why drivers constantly violate the right-of-way of motorcyclists. When a driver turns left, their brain is scanning for the specific visual pattern of a car. If the oncoming vehicle is a motorcycle, it can go completely unnoticed, even if the driver is looking right at it. Technology can make this worse. Tests show that pilots using head-up displays, which project data onto the windshield, can become so engaged with the digital readout that they failed to see massive airplanes parked directly on their runway. Looking and seeing are separate biological processes. If you aren't expecting an object, focusing intensely on a primary task ensures you remain blind to it. If our vision is flawed, our memory is even more fragile. Recalling an event isn't like playing a digital file. It is an act of improvisation, where the brain reconstructs the scene from scratch every time you think of it. In Washington, D.C., Leslie and Tice witnessed a stabbing attack from their car. They watched the same event from the same distance, but when they called 911 a minute later, they gave contradictory descriptions of the attacker's clothes, about his height, and even his race. This is change blindness. In a famous experiment, an actor asked pedestrians for directions. While the pedestrian was briefly distracted, a large wooden door was carried between them, and the actors' identities were swapped. Half of the people never noticed they were suddenly talking to a different human being. We succumb to change blindness, the belief that we would personally notice such an obvious swap. We assume our memories are detailed and accurate. Even professional script supervisors, whose job is to catch visual changes between movie takes, frequently fail to notice massive continuity errors when they get swept up in the emotion of a scene. Our memory only stores the gist of a situation. When we try to recall details, we fabricate them based on our expectations. This makes personal certainty a poor measure of truth. This raises a question. If our minds are so prone to missing the obvious, how did humanity survive? Evolution prioritized filtering to prevent sensory overload. This efficiency tax isolated what matters most, discarding irrelevant noise to focus on a single vital goal. That filter is tuned for walking. At modern travel speeds, a tenth of a second delay becomes a life or death failure. This is why splitting our attention is so dangerous. Experiments show that adding even a simple secondary counting task increases the rate of missing unexpected events by 20%. Talking on a cell phone triples that failure rate. We aren't doing two things at once. We are straining a finite supply of attention until it fails. We cannot cure these illusions by trying harder. To move forward, we must stop judging human error against the myth of a video camera and begin designing our legal systems and technology around the actual limits of the human